In 1870, a 31-year-old bookkeeper in Cleveland, Ohio, controlled exactly 4% of America's oil refining capacity. He was a nobody in a chaotic, boom-and-bust industry filled with thousands of competitors. Just 10 years later, by 1880, that same man controlled 90% of all oil refined in the United States. By 1904, he controlled 91% of production and 85% of final sales. He had effectively deleted competition from the map. His name was John D. Rockefeller. But here is the terrifying part. The system he built didn't die when he did. Most people think Standard Oil is history. They think the robber barons are gone. But look around you. The gasoline you pump, the drugs you buy, the tech platforms you scroll, the food you eat, and the banks you borrow from. Every single one of them is running on the exact same operating system that Rockefeller coded 150 years ago. He didn't just build an oil company. He built the architecture of modern control. He invented the corporate structures, the monopolistic tactics, and the regulatory capture methods that control your life right now in 2025. You cannot escape it because the system isn't a company, it's a method. Amazon uses it. Google uses it. Pfizer uses it. They all learned from the same blueprint. Control the supply chain vertically, crush competitors horizontally, capture the regulators, and use philanthropy to buy legitimacy. In this video, I am going to show you exactly how Rockefeller built the machine that runs the world, how the government's attempt to break it up actually made him the richest man in history, and why, 114 years later, you are still living as a tenant in the house that Rockefeller built. Because understanding this system isn't just a history lesson, it is a survival guide for the modern economy. To understand the system, you have to understand the architect. John D. Rockefeller wasn't a normal businessman. He was a psychological contradiction born in Richford, New York in 1839. His father, William Devil Bill Rockefeller, was a literal con man, a traveling salesman who peddled fake cancer cures and miracle elixirs to gullible farmers. He taught his son the art of the deal, explicitly bragging that he cheated his boys to make them sharp. But his mother, Eliza, was the opposite, a devout, strict Baptist who instilled a deep sense of moral certainty and divine purpose. This combination created a monster of efficiency, a man with the ruthlessness of a grifter and the conviction of a saint. Rockefeller would destroy thousands of livelihoods without blinking because he genuinely believed God had chosen him to bring order to chaos. In 1859, the chaos arrived. Oil was discovered in Titusville, Pennsylvania, sparking a black gold rush. Thousands of wildcatters flooded the hills, drilling holes in the ground hoping to get rich. It was a casino, volatile, messy, and prone to massive boom and bust cycles. Overproduction would crash prices to pennies, then shortages would spike them to dollars. Most people saw opportunity in the drilling. Rockefeller, a careful 20-year-old bookkeeper in Cleveland, saw a trap. He realized that the driller took all the risk, but the refiner, the man who turned the crude sludge into usable kerosene for lamps, controlled the bottleneck. In 1863, he invested $4,000 into his first refinery. But Cleveland was crowded. There were 30 other refineries fighting for scraps. Margins were razor thin. This is where Rockefeller's genius kicked in. He didn't want to compete. He wanted to dominate. He realized that the only way to win was to control costs so aggressively that no one else could survive. He obsessively tracked every penny, famously reducing the number of drops of solder used to seal a kerosene can from 40 to 39, saving a fortune at scale. He built his own barrels because buying them was too expensive. This obsession with efficiency was the seed of the monopoly. He wasn't just building a business, he was building a machine designed to swallow the market whole. This is the mindset the elites don't want you to have. They want you to think business is about innovation or passion. Rockefeller proved it is about control. We are building a community here that studies the real playbook. We are racing to hit 1,000 subscribers by December 31st, 2025. If we hit that number, I'm going to release the killer video, a script that exposes the modern version of Rockefeller's control grid. I'm afraid to upload it, but if we have 1,000 insiders, I will take the risk. So if you want to see how the game is rigged today, hit that subscribe button right now. Now, let's look at the specific tactics he used to destroy his competition. Rockefeller didn't become the richest man in history by just selling oil. He did it by reinventing the structure of business itself. He used two specific weapons that business schools still teach today, though they rarely mention the blood on the floor. The first weapon was vertical integration. Most refineries were simple operations. They bought crude oil, refined it, and paid someone else to ship it. Rockefeller looked at that model and saw wasted money everywhere. He decided he wouldn't just refine the oil, he would own every single step of the process. He bought his own forests to chop down his own wood to make his own barrels. While his competitors paid 25 cents for a barrel, Rockefeller made his for 9 cents. He bought his own wagons, his own warehouses, and his own tank cars. He squeezed every ounce of inefficiency out of the system. But his deadliest move was with the railroads. Because he shipped so much oil, he went to the railroad owners and demanded a secret rebate. Not only did he pay less than everyone else to ship his oil, but he also forced the railroads to pay him a fee every time his competitors shipped oil. Think about how insane that is. His competitors were literally subsidizing his business every time they tried to sell a product. Once he had the lowest costs, he unleashed the second weapon, horizontal integration. This is the art of swallowing your competition. In 1872, Rockefeller launched what historians call the Cleveland Massacre. In the span of 3 months, he approached every single one of his 26 competitors in Cleveland. His offer was simple: sell your refinery to me at a fair price and take Standard Oil stock, or I will crush you. If they refused, Rockefeller didn't hire hitmen. He lowered the price of kerosene in their specific neighborhood to below the cost of production. He took a loss on every gallon just to bleed them dry. His competitors, who didn't have his cash reserves or his secret rebates, would go bankrupt within weeks. Then, Rockefeller would buy their worthless factories for pennies on the dollar. By the time the smoke cleared, Rockefeller controlled 25 of the 26 refineries in Cleveland. He went from 4% market share to 25% in 90 days. He then took this playbook national. He marched into Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore, repeating the process. By 1879, he controlled 90% of America's refining capacity. He wasn't just a participant in the market anymore, he was the market. But owning everything created a new problem. It was technically illegal for one company in Ohio to own companies in other states. Rockefeller needed a legal loophole to bypass the government, and his lawyers found one that would change the world forever. By 1880, Rockefeller had conquered the market, but he faced a new enemy: the law. At the time, American corporations were strictly regulated by the states. A company chartered in Ohio, like Standard Oil, was legally forbidden from owning shares in a company chartered in Pennsylvania or New York. This was designed to prevent exactly what Rockefeller was doing, creating a nationwide monopoly. He owned the refineries, but he couldn't legally control them all under one roof. He needed a way to centralize power without breaking the letter of the law. So he didn't hire more engineers, he hired lawyers. And in 1882, his legal team invented a new corporate structure that would change capitalism forever: the trust. Here is how the magic trick worked. Rockefeller and his partners didn't merge the companies. Instead, the shareholders of all the dozens of regional oil companies handed over their stock certificates to a board of 9 trustees, led by Rockefeller himself. In exchange, they received trust certificates, which paid dividends but gave them no voting power. Suddenly, Standard Oil of Ohio didn't own Standard Oil of New York. Technically, they were separate. But in reality, The 9 trustees controlled every single decision for all of them. They controlled the pricing, the production, and the strategy for the entire national industry from one room in New York City. This was the birth of the modern holding company. It was a shell game designed to hide the monopoly in plain sight. It allowed Rockefeller to act as a dictator over the entire economy, while telling the government, "I don't own these companies, I just manage the trust." This structure was so effective that every other industry immediately copied it. We saw the sugar trust, the tobacco trust, the steel trust. They all realized that if you can't beat the law, you just pay lawyers to rewrite the definitions. This is the exact same structure used by Alphabet, which owns Google, and Meta, which owns Facebook, Instagram, today. They are holding companies designed to centralize control while shielding the parent from liability and taxes. Rockefeller didn't just rig the oil market, he rigged the legal system. By 1904, the Standard Oil Trust controlled 91% of oil production and 85% of final sales in the United States. He was the richest man the world had ever seen. But his visibility became his problem. The public hated him. They called him a robber baron. And in 1911, the government finally struck back, ordering the breakup of Standard Oil. Most historians tell you this was a victory for the people. But if you look at the bank accounts, it was actually the greatest thing that ever happened to Rockefeller. In 1911, the Supreme Court of the United States delivered what was supposed to be the death blow. They ruled that Standard Oil was an illegal monopoly under the Sherman Antitrust Act and ordered it to be broken up into 34 separate independent companies. The newspapers celebrated. The public cheered. They thought they had finally defeated the beast. But Rockefeller, who was playing golf when he heard the news, reportedly just smiled and told his partner, "Buy Standard Oil." He knew something the public didn't. The breakup was a financial miracle in disguise. Here is the math of the punishment. When the monopoly was intact, it was a bloated, bureaucratic giant. When it was forced to split, it broke into 34 lean, hungry companies. Standard Oil of New Jersey became Exxon. Standard Oil of New York became Mobil. Standard Oil of California became Chevron. Standard Oil of Indiana became Amoco. Because Rockefeller owned 25% of the original trust, he automatically received 25% of the stock in all 34 new companies. As these individual companies began to trade on the open market, their combined value exploded. Wall Street realized that the parts were worth far more than the whole. Before the breakup, Rockefeller was worth about $300 million. A few years after the breakup, thanks to the soaring stock prices of the baby standards, his net worth tripled to $900 million. In today's money, that is roughly $400 billion, richer than Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos combined. The government tried to destroy him, and instead, they made him the wealthiest human being in modern history. This leads us to a difficult question about how we view power. Rockefeller always argued that competition was a sin because it was wasteful, and that monopoly was a virtue because it brought order and lower prices, which, to be fair, he did achieve. Kerosene prices dropped 80% under his reign. So I want to know where you stand. Is monopoly fundamentally theft because it destroys freedom and competition? Or is it efficiency because it delivers better products at lower costs? Go to the comments and type theft or efficiency. I suspect the answer depends on whether you are the one buying the oil or the one selling it. But while Standard Oil eventually reconsolidated, Exxon and Mobil merged back together in 1999. The real legacy wasn't the oil. It was the operating system Rockefeller built, which was immediately adopted by every other industry. Rockefeller died in 1937, but his ghost is the CEO of every major corporation in America today. Once the blueprint was proven, everyone copied it. Look at Amazon. Jeff Bezos built an empire using the exact same vertical integration strategy as Standard Oil. Amazon started as a bookstore, but today it owns the warehouses, the trucks, the planes, and the cloud servers, AWS, that run the internet. Just like Rockefeller squeezed the railroads, Amazon squeezes third-party sellers, using their data to create copycat products and undercutting them until they go bankrupt. It is the Cleveland Massacre digitally remastered. Look at Google. Alphabet Inc. is structured almost exactly like the Standard Oil Trust. It is a holding company designed to centralize control over search, YouTube, AI, and Android, while keeping liability compartmentalized. Google has a 92% market share in search, higher than Standard Oil's 91% share in refining. But regulators struggle to break it up because Google offers its product for free, paying with your data instead of your dollars. Rockefeller would have loved that innovation, a monopoly so perfect that the customers don't even realize they are paying. Look at Big Pharma. The pharmaceutical industry is built on regulatory capture, another Rockefeller invention. Rockefeller famously lobbied politicians to write safety standards that only his refineries could meet, legislating his competitors out of business. Today, pharma companies fund a massive portion of the FDA's budget through user fees. They write the regulations they are supposedly governed by. Companies like Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson use their massive war chests to buy up any biotech startup that threatens their patents, ensuring that no disruptive technology ever reaches the market without their permission. This is the Rockefeller matrix. It is a self-perpetuating system where wealth concentrates at the top, competition is strangled in the crib, and the consumer is given the illusion of choice. You choose between Exxon and Mobil, same DNA. You choose between Instagram and WhatsApp, both Meta. You choose between two political parties funded by the same corporate donors. The system isn't broken. It is working exactly as it was designed in 1870. And this brings us to the final, uncomfortable truth. You cannot escape it. Here is the bottom line. You cannot opt out of the Rockefeller system. You need gasoline to drive to work. You need Amazon to buy affordable goods. You need Google to navigate the internet. You need Big Pharma if you get sick. The system is efficient, it is convenient, and it is inescapable. Every time you swipe your card, a fraction of that transaction flows upward to the modern descendants of the trust. Rockefeller's genius was realizing that the ultimate monopoly isn't about charging high prices. It is about becoming the infrastructure of civilization itself. So, what do? You have three choices. Choice one is to resist it, which is noble but exhausting. You can try to live off-grid, boycott Amazon, and only buy local. It is a hard life, but it is free. Choice two is to ignore it, which is what most people do. They enjoy the cheap shipping and the free search engine, and don't worry about who owns the data. Choice three is to understand it and position yourself accordingly. If the system is designed to extract wealth from consumers and concentrate it in corporations, then the only way to win is to stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like an owner. You can't beat Amazon, but you can own shares in it. You can't stop the oil monopoly, but you can profit from its dividends. This is the if you can't beat them, own them strategy. This brings us back to our mission. We are tracking the moves of these modern monopolies in real time. We are building the only community that is actually preparing for the next phase of this consolidation. And we have a goal. We are racing to hit 1,000 subscribers by December 31st, 2025. If we hit that number, I am going to release the killer video. This is the script I have already written that exposes the modern financial mechanism the elites use to rig the stock market and front-run the next crisis. I am genuinely afraid to upload it because it attacks the people who own the platforms. But if we hit 1,000 insiders, I will take the risk. Before I let you go, I want to talk to you directly for a second. Just you and me. I know this is a cynical story. Learning that the entire economy is essentially a rigged game built by a ruthless monopolist 150 years ago, can make you feel powerless. It can make you feel like voting with your wallet is a lie. But here is the thing. Knowledge is the only power we have left. When you understand why the world looks the way it does, you stop being confused by it. You stop wondering why small businesses struggle while Amazon thrives. You stop wondering why politicians never seem to fix the problem. You start seeing the matrix code. And once you see it, you can navigate it. You can protect your family. You can find the cracks in the pavement where real freedom still exists. That is why I started this channel. Not to depress you, but to arm you. We are going to uncover every layer of this onion, no matter how much it makes the establishment cry. So if you are with me, if you want to know the rules of the game so you can finally start winning, hit that subscribe button. Let's build something they can't buy. Class dismissed.